Hi, my name is Abraham and I'm your big brother in recovery, coming back to you with another educational video, hopefully to help you in your pursuit to obtain sustainable sobriety. Look, if this is your first time on the channel, please do us a favor and right now, click the like button and subscribe, and by all means leave a comment, because we do respond to those pretty much in real time, and forward this information to your friends. So again, click the like button right now before we get started. Leave a comment after we get through, and by all means share this with your friends. I hope that the last video really added some value to you. So now I want to lay or share with you something that is on my heart. A lot of people that know me, they know me for one reason: results. Because, not being prideful or boastful, but if you're going to boast in success. And, results, it seems like it's the only thing people respect. Results, that's what it's all about. The program says in step 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, because we already know, if you look at some previous videos, that the goal of doing the steps is to have a spiritual awakening, simply because we are physically asleep, meaning even though you're physically woke, you are spiritually asleep because you're unaware of something, you are ignorant of something. But by the time you get to step 12, you have an awakening. And that awakening is you are aware and you are knowledgeable of spiritual principles, because the principles come before the personalities. In other words, the spiritual principles change the psychology of the person or the person's personality, merely because their personalities are not them, but their learned behaviors. With that being said, as often, I want to dive right into what we're saying, because I value your time. And if you came to this channel to spend time with me, I want to give you some things that will add value to what you're doing, because as you know, our book says that the message that holds an alcoholic and or an addict's attention must have depth and weight. So we never give drug-a-logs, and we very rarely give our opinion. So that sets me up for what I want to talk about right now. There are a lot of different ways to recover out there. I know of over 80 different ways, merely because I am a licensed therapist and I'm a board certified mental health worker, a counselor, board certified, state certified. And I'm also a person in long-term recovery who has recently just celebrated 40 years of being clean and sober. Those are two different things. Go back and look at our videos on the difference between being clean and being sober. Just an overview: you can get clean and never get sober, but you can't get sober without first getting clean. So I am clean and sober, and I'm not a grateful alcoholic. I am a member of Alcoholics Anonymous, merely because of recovery stigma. Why would I, negative recovery stigmas, why would I want to announce what I'm trying to denounce? And what I'm trying to denounce is the negative behavior that I once did. But today, I want to be an example for those who are suffering from the illness of addiction. And it says on page 44, it is an illness which only a spiritual experience will conquer. So you already know this. So what I want to talk about today is results. Results. You can't deny what results. You can't argue with the truth. The truth, as we often say, here's the Abrahamism, is never discovered. It's never invented. It's always discovered. And once you discover the truth, it'll make you free. So as I stated, there are a lot of different methodologies out there, from smart recovery to cognitive behavioral therapy. There is refuge recovery. There's women in sobriety. There is MIT. There's more recognition therapy. MRT, there's harm reduction, there is motivational interviewing, the stages of change. The list can go on and on and on. And the reason why I have to know these simply because I cannot be fixated on just one way, because there are multiplicity. Or how about this, the buzzword that we used to use a few years ago, plethora. Everybody was using the word plethora, right? So watch this. Now we have a buzzword that we use in the field of addiction called evidence-based. Evidence-based results. Does your program get the results that you claim that it'll get? So watch this. I read a statistic, which was a startling statistic that made me uncomfortable. However, by being in this field for 40 years, I must agree with it. And the statistic was simply this: 9 out of 10 people who leave a residential treatment facility usually relapses within the first 9 months of leaving that facility. No, 6 months of leaving that facility. I don't know about you, but that's not good numbers, and that's not to say anything negative, but you do agree those numbers don't look good. So what I want to talk about today, besides results, here is what I want to say about the title of this video. Let's look at the original evidence-based program. The original evidence-based program. How do I know it works? Because I worked it and I'm continuing to work it. But I want to show you something on Roman numeral page XX of your big book. And I'd like for you to look at the first sentence of that on top of that page. First sentence on the top of the page. It talks about AA grew by leaps and bounds. For this, there were 2 principal reasons. In other words, 2 reasons why AA grew back then by leaps and bounds. Because you got to remember, back then, all they had was detox and an insane asylum. That was it. There was no residential treatment. There is no 12-step meeting. So AA, when it came along, was revolutionary, right? So notice what it says. The large number of recoveries, plural, and reunited homes, talking about results. Now, a sidebar here. These are the first 2 original promises. The large number of recoveries, promise number 1, and reunited homes. So what they're saying is, if you did what they said, you could recover and be reunited with your family. And a lot of people I know will take that today and run with it. Notice what it says next. These made their impressions everywhere. Now, how many of you know the numbers don't lie? Let's look at the numbers, talking about evidence-based results, right? Because we know the results that we're getting now are really not to be talked about. They are really, really bad. Of alcoholics who came to AA and really tried, 50% got sober at once and remained that way. Wow, let's just look at what this first statement says. People that came to AA for the first time, the prerequisite here is they really tried. What does that mean? They didn't argue, they didn't scoff, they accepted, and they followed the path. Rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. They followed it and they got the results. Notice what it says. They got sober at once and remained that way. That's powerful. That's 50% right now. We can't get 50% today, right? Remember the statistic? 9 out of 10 people who leave a residential treatment facility usually relapses within the first 6 months. And let me tell you something. I've been doing this for 40 years. Every OD or accidental overdose was caused by a relapse. So I am not one to be pushing that relapse is a part of recovery. I know what we say in clinical stuff. You know, I understand that, but guess what? I don't say it. What I do say is people do relapse. Relapse is not a part of recovery, but people do, because a person will listen to someone like me and say that, you know what, Abraham said it's okay to relapse. No, it's not. But if you survive it, it's something you don't want to experience numerous times, right? You don't want to do that because you don't know if that one relapse can kill you. You remember jails, institutions, and death? They don't come in that chronological order. So let's look at the second startling evidence-based statistic. 25 sobered up after some relapses. You remember, I don't say that it's a part of recovery, but people do. Like some of those did. They weren't ready to really try. And notice what it says next. And among the remainder, those who stayed on with AA showed improvement. That means the person that wasn't even working on nothing, just being around people in AA who were getting better, they automatically got better simply because they caught a hold of what we call group conscious, or the mindset of the group of individuals that were in pursuit of betterment, right? So the first set of people, 50% got sober at once until the day they died and never went back. 25 after some relapses. That's a 75% success rate. And among the remainder, those who stayed on with AA showed improvement. Now let's watch this. Other thousands came to a few AA meetings and at first decided they didn't want the program. I met a lot of people like that. Man, I don't want this program. But great numbers out of these, about 2 out of 3, begin to return as time passed, merely because their thinking, their fear, and their actions were not producing the results that they wanted. In other words, they were restless, irritable, and discontent. But guess what they found out? That God's will for them was to be happy, joyous, and free. And you can find that on page 133. Why don't you take a look at it real quick? So, because you know, I often tell people, don't believe nothing I say. Go back, look at it for yourself, and you'll have a greater appreciation for what I shared with you. On 133, the first sentence, notice what it says. We are sure God wants us to be happy, joyous, and free. So that's a nice litmus test. If you are currently restless, irritable, and discontent, as it says in the doctor's opinion, guess what? That's not God's will for your life. But you know what God's will is? What we just read, for you to be happy, joyous, and free. And once you get sober, that is what happens, right? You become happy, joyous, and free. But sobriety is not the goal, because you're sober. Now what? You know, there's a book called Start With Why, and the why is the reason. So what I'd like to share with you now is this program even works for those who even suffer mental illnesses. You know, in our clinical field, we call it MISA, M-I-S-A, mentally ill substance abusers. They both suffer a mental illness and a substance use disorder. But notice what our book simply says and how it works. It says the last part of how it works, the first paragraph. There are those too who suffer from grave emotional and mental disorders. And notice what it says. But many of them do recover if they have the capacity to be honest. What are they being honest about? They're being honest about the mere fact that, you know what, 1 is too many, 1,000 isn't enough, and they don't like the way that they living. And what happens is, by using this program, it will repair or help them repair the wreckage of their past. Now, I'd like to show you something else that will help you to understand this, because see, I've often said there are 3 types of people in the world. There are those who suffer from depression, those that are suffering from anxiety, and those that are peaceful and content. Now notice, the person that's suffering from depression is concerned about the opportunities that they missed in the past. And normally in a treating setting, other than with the 12 steps, which is an abstinence-based program, and I'm not a doctor, and I'm not here to shun or to make fun of anybody, but I'm going to show you the effectiveness of it. We are trained in the clinical setting to give the person with depression basically Seroquel or some other antidepressant medication for bipolar, right? But notice what this said. We're talking about some principles here. We're talking about 4 simple principles. It breaks down to trust God, clean house, and help others. But basically, it is, how can I put it? Sharing. Let me see here. First, we have to surrender. Second, we share. Third, we do pay our restitution. And last but not least, we continue to get guidance from a power greater than ourselves. So the person that is suffering from anxiety, the medical staff will probably administer clonidine, right? I get it. I understand that, right? And do whatever the medical doctor tells you to do, because I am not one. But the person that is peaceful and content, they've already repaired the wreckage of their past. They're looking forward to their future. However, they are living in the now with a great expectation of something going on better for them, because they're in the pursuit of betterment. As a matter of fact, the mindset is every day in every way, I continue to get better and better. So I'm not depressed about the past. I'm not fearful of the future. And guess what I understand based on this? There's no chemical solution for my spiritual problem, because page 44 tells me I have a spiritual problem, right? And I have to do something in order to get rid of that problem. So medication is fine if that's what you're into, but that's like putting a Band-Aid on a gunshot wound. I'm talking about something that works all the time. Even though it said, rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path, those who do not recover are people who cannot or will not completely give themselves to this simple program. I want to conclude with something, talking about results, talking about the original evidence-based program, talking about a 75% success rate in the 1930s. Here it is in 2 weeks, we'll be in 2021. Here's the question: what are we doing different now than they were doing then? And I tell you what I think we're doing, and I'm not trying to be rude. We've turned recovery into a science, and all it is turn right and go straight. It's real simple, but we complicate it by talking more about relapse triggers as opposed to talking about recovery tools. So I want to leave something with you to muse or ponder. On page 181, the last paragraph. If you think you are an atheist, an agnostic, a skeptic, what do all 3 of those individuals have in common? Here it is. Or have any other form of intellectual pride. They only believe what they believe, and they have a right to believe it, but it changes nothing, because guess what? You're entitled to your belief, but you can be absolutely wrong, which keeps you from accepting what is in this book. What is in this book? A solution. A solution to what? Your problem. We feel sorry for you. If you still think you're strong enough to beat the game alone, why should you try to beat the game alone when there's help? There's help for the hopeless. There's help for the helpless and hope for the hopeless here. That's what I found. That's your affair. But if you really and truly want to quit drinking liquor for good and all, watch this, and sincerely feel that you must have some help, we know that we have an answer for you. This is a powerful statement. Watch this. It never fails. That sounds like the original evidence-based program. If you go about it with one half the zeal you have been in the habit of showing when you were getting another drink. In other words, here's an Abrahamism. An alcoholic and an addict will walk 100 miles to use or get high, but very few of them will take one step to recover. If they did and they do, your Heavenly Father will never let you down. Look, here's your big brother Abraham coming to you again with another video, begging you, urging you, strongly petitioning you. As Herbert Spencer said in the back of the book, don't remain in everlasting ignorance. On page 568, let's look at it. There is a principle which is bar against all information, which is proof against all argument, and which cannot fail to keep a man in everlasting ignorance. That principle is contempt prior to investigation. Look, don't talk about something you don't know anything about, because you can't transmit something you don't have. So if you would at least try this for one good year, give it your all. You remember those 50% who got sober at once? What was the prerequisite? They really tried. I challenge you to really, really try, because you know what? You should expect more of yourself this upcoming year, because I expect more of you personally. And I don't think you can get mad at me for believing in you. But I'd like to draw your attention to the paragraph above. We find that no one need have difficulty with the spirituality of the program. Willingness, honesty, and open-mindedness are the essentials of recovery, are the basics. But they are indispensable. You can't separate them and you can't put them together. They just are what they are. So look, I hope moving forth, you give yourself a chance, you really try. If there's anything I can do to help you, I'm here for you. And by all means, press the like button, leave a comment, share it with your friends, and know that this is your year for a breakthrough. And you will always experience what you expect, and we expect the best for you, all right? So I'll talk to you soon. Keep a mask on and expect good things to happen. Use your social distances, and by all means, try to help somebody, because when you help others, you help yourself. This is your big brother Abraham coming back to you. I'll see you soon with another educational video. Thank you so much. Bye.